Thank you very much, Chachu. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session, where I'm going to share with you all a practical approach to get started with mobile test automation based on my learnings. So let's get real. So before we deep dive into today's agenda, I just want to get your attention onto the fact that just like any other project, when we are thinking of a mobile test automation project, there are some main stages or project phases we should be working on. Planning being a very critical phase where we lay the foundation for the entire project impacts a lot for the success of the project, whereas development where we do all these activities to implement the technical solutions decisions we took to make the automation project executable, and continuous integration to make testing also continuous, aligning testing with current DevOps practices, and execution and reporting to analyze the quality of the application and to give testing feedback for continuous improvement. So with today's session, we are going to discuss few things I found important and also interesting covering these areas. And since mobile testing is a huge area, I will narrow it down to specifically talk about functional test automation of mobile apps. So basically, it would be Android and iOS for today's session. So yeah, we will start with the things we need to consider in the planning stage, followed by test design and development. Then go ahead with discussing integration and reporting aspects. Then we will look a bit into tools and technologies. And also, and then I will also describe how we can come up with an automation solution in a technical aspect. Then we can finish the session off discussing some technical challenges we may come across in the process. So then let's get started with the planning. Actually, planning can be considered as a very vital step for the project to be a success, right? I won't be actually talking about an overall QA strategy here. Instead, I will be, narrowing it down to the automation portion of it and talk about the things we should consider about when we are starting off with a mobile automation project. So, yeah, requirement. So requirement is a key aspect when planning the project. So requirement for automation can come in different ways, right? So it can come from the customer's end, or even we as a development team can identify the automation opportunity in the project we are working on, and also like after that, then we come up with the detailed requirements and then take it up with the customers in order to convince why we need to incorporate automation. In any case, we need to pay attention for areas like scope and the test coverage. For example, it can come from the customer directly saying, okay, we need the smoke suit to be automated and executed after each build. Then what we can do is we can brainstorm around it and fine tune the requirement more in follow up discussion. Or maybe if we as a team identify that it's high time we had automation, then we have to brainstorm in understanding whether it is from having the smoke suit automated or the regression suit automated, we can achieve the maximum ROI. It may actually vary from project to project, but the scope and the test coverage in general is something we will have to revisit as the project progresses. And also, we need to discuss about different mobile OSs, devices, and also versions we need to cover with our automated tests. This mainly can be based on the customer requirement and also on the usage of end users. If the project is already running one and the testing is done manually, we can also take inputs from the team to come up with the required devices, versions, etc. we need to be focusing on. Another important thing we have to derive from the requirement is what kind of report we need for test results. We might need to consider about the format, the information need to be included, the look and feel, etc. So these requirements are actually important when we decide on the test runners or report plugins to select from. When it comes to regulations, it's important to know if there are any regulations and compliance we need to adhere to when we are doing these kind of projects. For example, in healthcare domain, they have certain regulations, so we need to take our technical decisions within these approved boundaries. And we also might want to consider more about data sensitivity, and also like what steps needed to take if we have to expose our applications to third party solutions, etc. And also we might want to follow certain security standards while coding, following proper review cycles, so on. So not only the technical aspects but also process wise we have to be compliant with those regulatory requirements. Then, when planning for a mobile test automation project, we need to take some decisions regarding the tech stack also, right? It can be the automation tool, the DevOps platform, and whether we need to use real devices to run our tests. Also, like if we take the code level, we may also want to come up with the best suited way to configure our automation tool and the design pattern we should be following. So if we go beyond the QS world, it's also important that we work closely with our developers to get an idea about how the application is built, how they are working with CI/CD, what are the platforms they use, for example, the app distribution methods and the platform they use, which would help us at a later stage when we want to integrate our test executions with CI/CD. Then we need to brainstorm or maybe get the requirement from the client on at what point we need to execute our tests and in which environments. For example, we might need to run our tests after each new build is deployed, or it could be a scheduled run every day at a specific time likewise. So we will also like have to figure out what kind of test suits we need to run on each environment. For example, whether we need to run our smoke test suite in the dev and the regression in maybe test or staging or whatever, so on. So yeah, then another like important thing to note here is that sometimes based on the complexity of the features and functionalities, we will have to do a feasibility study or even do a POC to evaluate the tool support and whether it's possible to achieve the desired result if we continue with the project. So basically, the output of the stage, we will have our automation test strategy, then the suitable tech stack, results of the feasibility study or the POC, which will be inputs to the next steps to follow. So if we go ahead with the test design and development, um, in the test design and development stage, there are certain things we might want to consider. So if you look at test designing, we have to derive the user flows to be automated, right? We might want to see whether we can use the flows already written for manual testing, or whether we need to write the automatable flows from scratch. We can also see how we can organize our test cases into test suites and categorize in a way which is easy when it comes to the execution, where we can specify which test suites to be executed in which environment. Then when we are building the automation framework and writing test scripts with the selected language, one important thing we should make sure is that we need to implement it in a way that it provides a high level of maintainability and also high level of readability. We will here have to think about good folder structures using best practices for tool configurations like handling drivers, handling locators and test data, and also writing descriptive and clear test scripts, following coding standards to address this, maintainability and readability, and also to avoid code duplicates. Then, while developing scripts, we need to make provisions for configurations required for continuous testing related integrations. Couple of examples to such integrations could be integrations with the DevOps platform and maybe also with a cloud hosted device platform. Um, And also, based on the requirement for reporting, we will have to configure any reporting plugins needed, and we might need to add support to report generation according to the different execution commands we may use. So in this stage, we can say that the output of this stage would be the automation framework and the scripts. If we go ahead with integration and reporting, uh, now we have our automated scripts, right? So then what we need to do? So in order to achieve continuous testing, we need to integrate our test suite with DevOps platform and configure pipeline to execute our tests. So if we are starting off automation for an application which is already built or maybe being built, it probably may have a dev build pipeline to build the dev project and publish the application to app distribution platform. So in a situation like this, we have to decide what kind of approach we need to take to execute our tests. For example, we can use the same pipeline the developers use to build their project, or create a separate pipeline for test execution. So when configuring the pipeline, we need to consider about building our automation project, get access to the newly generated APK and IPA files, and also set different parameter values we need to pass to our test scripts as environment variables. So yeah, and also, if you are using a cloud hosted device platform to access different devices, we need to run our tests. We need to connect to these platforms also within the pipeline itself. Another thing we would do in this stage is setting up execution methods based on the requirement. So it could be scheduled executions, manual triggers, or like automatic execution triggers. For example, when a new APK and IPA files are generated, then we will trigger the execution automatically. Uh, then we have to communicate our test results to relevant stakeholders after each execution, right? So here we need to retrieve the generated test results files after the test scripts are run, and then send them to the relevant parties. Reporting can be, possible in various ways depending on the tech stack we choose. Some DevOps platform might provide the support to view the test results in their own dashboard, or we can also send test reports via email if we have configured our pipeline for that. And also these cloud hosted platforms also provide the capability of viewing test results on their platform too. So anyway, the method we choose to communicate our test reports will depend on the project requirement, and also can vary from project to project. So when we are done with this stage, we will have our test execution pipeline and the execution results after running our tests. Yeah, to sum up the things I have discussed so far in terms of the technical aspect of an automation project, I just want to say that all these things are connected, like from scripts to integration to execution. For example, we can't isolate design and development from the rest of the things like integration, reporting, etc. So in order to come up with a consolidated solution at the end, we should think how everything should connect to each other and plan for it based on our requirements. All right. So now let's take some time to look at some tools we can use for mobile test automation. Yeah, let's start with automation framework. So I think I believe that it's safe to say Appium is the most commonly used framework for mobile test automation, as it supports multiple platforms including iOS, Android, and also Windows. And also it supports wide range of languages, right? Like Java, Python, Ruby, and JavaScript across all these platforms. So it's also possible to use multiple testing frameworks like TestNG, JUnit, NUnit with Appium. And another, thing is like it provides easy integration with CI/CD tools, and also we can achieve comprehensive automation coverage as it provides, access to device camera, GPS, likewise. So so actually Appium is more of a general purpose tool, right? If you take Appium Flutter driver, It is actually designed specifically for Flutter applications for more maybe for more seamless and efficient automation experience. So if our application is Flutter, we can think of using that tool as well. So let's say the requirement is to automate only Android apps. Then we have the option to work with frameworks like Espresso, which is designed specially for Android app testing. It actually works directly with the apps APK, so it kind of makes it fast and efficient. So and also on the other hand, this XUI test is a framework designed specifically for iOS testing. So similarly, if the requirement is to automate only an iOS application, this might be a good option to consider. Here I have specifically mentioned WebDriver IO because nowadays we can see people moving to more and more JS-based frameworks, right? So WebDrive IO is primarily a web-based framework, but Appium can be integrated with WebDrive IO to automate the testing of mobile applications using the same syntax and the APIs that you use to test web applications. One example of where you might want to use this would be to automate the testing of mobile apps using the same testing framework and the language you use for web applications. So there are some other frameworks like Selendroid, which is considered to be good to test applications with web views. So anyway, the selection of framework may depend on the automation requirement at hand. Languages. So today, most commonly used languages for mobile test automation are Java, C Sharp, Python, and JavaScript. So, however, ultimately, the choice of language depends on the specific requirements of the project and also the expertise of the team and also the framework we would choose. Yeah. As you may have already heard of, there are various DevOps services available and used in the industry currently. I have only mentioned three here in order for you to get a general idea about. Anyway, like these platforms provide you the necessary support to integrate the automated test scripts to be executed automatically as a part of CI/CD practices. So depending on the requirement or the approach you choose, you can configure your test execution pipelines within these platforms, connecting the test scripts with the latest development builds and also a cloud device platform, making it all connected. So if you use a platform like Azure DevOps, which is of course a paid service, we can maintain everything at one place. It has its own repo, so we can maintain our code base within Azure itself, and we can configure, build, and release pipelines. And also, it provides easy integration with the cloud-hosted devices. It also provides project planning, test planning, and also to maintain test cases, making it easier to maintain everything at one place. Actually, when we take Azure DevOps, it's more tightly provides access to Microsoft products. So if your other tools are Microsoft based, this will be an ideal platform to choose from. But anyway, I have to emphasize that it's not limited only to Microsoft products. And if you use a service like Jenkins, which is free and open source, it also Jenkins also provides flexibility to be integrated with wide range of tools and technologies through various plugins. So we can of course configure external code repo and also an external cloud hosted devices and even a test management tool. So deciding on which DevOps platform will vary depending on the company and also the project we are working on. For example, if the company is already using Azure DevOps, or maybe the clients have already purchased it, and developers using it for development activities, or maybe if the security is a major concern, we can also evaluate how we can integrate testing in the same platform. Or if you are starting a project from scratch, we'll have to evaluate and compare different tools and select what suits the project more. Then we will have to communicate that information to the customers and get their consent into using them or even purchase if needed. So Yeah, and also like it's important for us to have an idea about app distribution platforms, because app distribution is part of the developer pipeline where we need to integrate our test executions. And also like if you're using a device pool, we can evaluate whether we can use the same app distribution platform for that. For example, if App Center is the platform we use to distribute the apps, then we can evaluate and see if we can use the real devices or the emulators offered by App Center to execute our tests. It's same with other platforms, right? Firebase, which is also provides cloud hosted devices. Um, then, when it comes to cloud-based devices, these are actually not free and open source, but they more or less offer the services free for a certain usage limits. But however, if we want to run our tests on various different devices and platforms, and also if we want to connect the tests with a DevOps platform, I would say we will have to consider using them, evaluating each one of the services capabilities, limitations, etc., and choose the service that serves our project purpose well. So all these services more or less provides us with emulators, simulators, and real devices. So it would be required for us to have a closer look at our functionalities and the support these platforms provide for us to automate them to select one platform. So this is a kind of a general idea I wanted to share with you all about the tools. Now, let us explore an example of how we can utilize these tools together to come up with a solution to automate testing. So, by the way, like this is not an paid advertisement. I'm just sharing some of the things I have been involved in Ascentic. So, all right. Let's take an example. Let's say we have an already built application where the main feature of it is to use the device camera to capture the user's facial expressions and use machine learning algorithms to detect emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, likewise. So based on these emotions, this app is designed to provide personalized recommendations for activities to help manage and also get rid of negative emotions. So let's imagine that we get the requirement to come up with an automation suite covering the overall functionality of the application. So if we assume that the clients have some specific requirements from their end, like the test should be executed on real devices, test should be integrated with a CI/CD tool, and the test should be executed in both Android and iOS. So what kind of technical solution we can provide to cater to these requirements? So we can also assume that the mobile application is already built and the repo and the dev build pipeline is configured in Azure DevOps. So if we look at the client's requirement, it's evident that we have to find a way to execute our automated tests in real devices while having integrated it to a CI/CD, which makes us to think about a solution where we need to integrate our DevOps platform with a cloud-hosted device platform. As you already know, like there are many cloud-hosted device platforms available in the market today. So we have to select a platform that serves our purpose well, right? So when selecting such a platform, one of the main thing to be looking at could be our application functionality. So looking at the functionalities of this example scenario, it's quite evident that the camera functionality is a key aspect of this application. And also at the same time, it could be a challenge for us to achieve with automation. So we might have to evaluate few of these platforms to see whether we can achieve what we need through them. So if you take browser stack, it is such a platform that provide emulators, simulators, and also real devices to run our tests on both iOS and Android. It's also like capable of triggering the device camera with the images we will provide to be captured. But let's say we did not know that browser stack is capable of functionality like that, and also whether it would be compatible with our application. So in a situation like this, it could be imperative for us to do a feasibility analysis, evaluating a few of these services and get consent from the clients to use the selected tool. Here, the client's consent is very important in situations like this, as we are, exposing our application to a third party, and also like due to the fact that these are, commercial tools that we need to pay to use. In the meantime, we also have to decide on the automation framework we have to be using. Uh, there also we can evaluate few frameworks depending on the requirement. And in this case, we need to run our tests on both Android and iOS. And also like it's important to have one code base for both the Android and iOS scripts for easy maintenance. So in a situation like this, we can either, do a tool comparison or just straight away we can choose Appium because it supports all these conditions, and also like it supports easy integration into other third-party platforms as well. So here in this solution, we have selected Appium to be our automation framework, and Java as the programming language for the scripts. When we are developing our scripts, we should be, considerate about using best practices and coding standards as well. So in this case, we need to follow a design pattern to handle both Android and iOS using the same methods, and if possible, when handling the locators. So here I would say page factory is something we can use with Java and Appium in this scenario. So while working on the scripts, we have to think about the test runners and test report integrations. So based on the requirement for the reporting format, we can take a decision on what kind of test runner we should be using. Let's say the customer wants us to send them a report in the XML format, which is kind of in a readable raw format rather. We can easily get it done using TestNG. And also TestNG also provides an HTML report which is more readable. And anyway, like these TestNG reports are actually created from a plugin called Surefire. So and let's say like if you want more descriptive reports, we also have the possibility to use Cucumber reporting plugin, which can be, used with TestNG's test runner, which will, generate a Cucumber HTML report, which will be more descriptive. Then after all this, when we integrate these things together, what we should do is we need to first create a pipeline for test execution. We can, either integrate test execution in the build pipeline itself, or we can create a release pipeline just for the test execution. So let's assume that we select the second approach in this example. So how to do that? So right, first of all, we need to push our automation code to the same repo where the app development code is maintained, and we can configure our pipeline in a way that our test should be executed when the development project is built and the APK and IPA files are generated, so that we can take the latest mobile bit to execute our tests. When we create the test execution pipeline, we need to, in this case, we need to create a connection with the browser stack and upload our retrieved APK and IPA files to browser stack before we can trigger the test execution commands. Another important thing to note here is that within our automation code base also, it must be configured to authenticate browser stack, and we need to pass the application ID we get when we upload the APK and IPA files, and we need to pass them to the Appium capabilities for us to be able to execute the tests. So if you look at the functionality, a main component is to take pictures from the device camera, right? So another thing we need to consider is to come up with a way to get images we need to upload to browser stack into our pipeline. So as browser stack provides us with an image injection capability, we just need to upload the images to browser stack and execute a command from our automated scripts so that it will capture those images when the camera button is clicked. All right. So once all this done, and when we trigger the test execution commands, the test scripts would be executed on the browser stack cloud as per the commands received from Appium server, and then both TestNG and Cucumber reports will be generated and be stored in Azure. And now what we need to do is that we need to retrieve those reports and send them to a to the relevant stakeholders. The simplest way to do that, in my opinion, is by sending an email with the test result files attached using a Python script or something, for example. So because like as we used in this example, we used Java based tech stack, so we can't see the test results in the Asia test dashboard, which kind of forces us to send out the test results as an email. So yeah, so that's how it works, connecting all this together. This is basically one small example of how we can leverage these technologies to get a functional mobile automation test suite up and running. Anyway, like, I hope I was clear with my explanation on how these tools work together. So yeah. Now, like, we have discussed about all these tools available and things to consider when approaching a project. So now let's look at actually at which point we need to consider doing automation. Yeah, so for businesses to achieve competitive advantage over their competitors, it is important to get the new features or the improvements to market fast and continuous. So as the mobile application evolves and the new features are added, regression testing becomes increasingly important to ensure that the existing functionality continues to work as expected. So if we can minimize manual testing efforts for regression by having the regression suite automated, we can use manual testing effectively. For example, we can use exploratory testing to test new features, and it may ultimately lead to fast deliveries to market while ensuring both new features and also the existing functionalities of expected quality. um, then, if we look at a variety of user stories, let's take an example of a healthcare application with many user roles like, patient, healthcare provider, caregiver, and maybe administrator. So having these different user journeys automated, it is possible to improve testing efficiency and also increase test coverage. Actually, like, not only different users, but situation like where the behavior of a functionality changes according to the various input data. It will be time consuming to test the behaviors with all this combination of test data manually, which of course will be a very monotonous task. So like we can minimize these monotonous manual efforts if we can automate these flows and also the user journeys likewise. So yeah. Um, yeah, when it comes to regulatory requirements, so if we take the earlier example of the example solution we discussed, so from the functionality perspective, we can all agree that okay, this is a very small application, and we maybe effectively test this application manually, right? But sometimes even if the application is small and there are not many features, we'll have to consider having automation if we have to comply with regulatory standards. If we don't have time or budget to go ahead with automation at start of a project, so but it's always beneficial to keep provisions for test automation during the development process of the application, given that we have to do that even at a later stage according to these regulations. So and also when we have to check the application compatibility across various operating systems, devices, and versions, also like and also like maybe in parallel in different environments. So in order to reduce the feedback time, we can consider having automation in place, solving issues with maybe resource and time limitations to perform testing on all these platforms. Um, yeah, there can be more other, suggestive factors which will, motivate the customers and development teams to incorporate test automation into the, development life cycle. And if we can identify these automation needs earlier in the life cycle, we can be better prepared for it in terms of maybe skills, resources, and also an automation friendly development code base, which would ultimately bring positive impact to the quality of our applications. Yeah. So is it all a sweet journey? No, right? It will never. Like there can be so many challenges you will be facing when it comes to mobile test automation. I would say like it would be more challenging than web application. Well, actually, anyway, like it's my personal opinion. Some may not agree with me on that. However, like let's discuss some of the challenges we may come across with mobile automation. So yeah, depending on the automation tool, the test runner, and the language we select, we might experience some kind of version compatibility issues between these technologies. For example, if you decide to use combinations of Java, Cucumber with Appium, and browser stack, we might want to look for the compatible set of versions we can use, which could be a little challenging because we'll have to deal with all the errors we get due to these incompatibilities to find the optimum combination. Sometimes these errors are not straightforwardly indicate that they are due to version incompatibilities, but anyway, like the more we get to know about and work with these different technologies, it will be easier for us to deal with these version issues, and also it might even be able to try out more better alternative solutions to reduce the time spent on solving these annoying issues. Um, and also, sometimes when we use these third-party services like cloud-hosted device platforms, we will have to do workarounds from our automation code level to get the services to cater to our specific needs. For example, if you want to see the test results statuses, that means whether our tests have passed or failed from the cloud device platform itself. Sometimes we'll have to modify the way we normally use to assert the tests, as those assertions might not be compatible with how the test status is shown in those platforms. So we will have to find the alternative assertion mechanisms and modify our automated scripts to be aligned with those platforms. And maintenance. So maintenance is of utmost importance when it comes to test automation. Like huge part of ROI of a automation project depends on how well we maintain our automated test suites. Like not only we will have to automate the new functionalities being added to the application, but also like we need to update our existing scripts where necessary, in order to make sure that our tests don't fail due to issues in the script actually compromising the reliability of the test suites. So and also like not only in the script level updates, but also things like getting rid of deprecated packages and improving the efficiency of test scripts to reduce the flakiness of tests are also part of maintenance. So through things like daily check-ins to the test results of scheduled executions, identifying and fixing script issues if there are any. So basically, not letting a test suite go stale is a must to achieve automation ROI. So this is a challenge we have to face and get better at if we constantly try to improve things we already have. And also. Yeah, handling different device behaviors can be really, challenging. If we are to run our tests across, various different devices, and there are many different versions also. So it's doubtful whether we will be able to execute our tests smoothly on, all these devices and versions alike. So adjustments to the code to cater, those differences, and also in the meantime, we'll have to, prioritize the devices and versions that are most important for our testing. These prioritization can be based on factors such as maybe popularity and also the customer feedback, or our knowledge about the market, so on. So and also like we can work closely with our development team to understand these device specific issues maybe, and to develop a solution that address those issues. So yeah, and writing automation scripts for hybrid applications, where we have native components and also components like web views in the same application can be quite challenging also. So uh, when we have to basically switch between those components. So these can be quite a bit of complicated situations to handle, and I would say that we might want to take case by case and see the solutions we can apply if we come across these complications. So yeah. So you might think, okay, uh, we have a lot of these challenges, right? Even when we have all these challenges, why would we still need to pay attention to, mobile test automation? Just imagine that, mobile devices being the primary way that, people access the internet, and the fact that they have, become an essential part of modern life. In order to cater to this ever-growing, demand for mobile applications, software development teams must adopt efficient and effective practices for not only development but also for testing, like mobile test automation. Not only the things we discussed today, like continuous testing and using a cloud-based testing platform, we may even want to explore how to leverage AI and machine learning in our testing practices. So it's important that as automation engineers, we keep up with the current technology trends, and be aware of how to utilize different tools in different contexts to come up with effective testing solutions. For example, as AI and ML is a current trend, it's important that we also comply our testing approaches also with these trends, and help getting the products fast to markets to achieve competitive advantage our customers are looking for. So end of the day, the most important thing is that we keep moving forward among all these challenges, overcoming them, learning from them, to prepare ourselves to face the future. So yeah, so with that, we have come to the end of the session, as that's what I planned to share with you all today. So if you guys have any questions, we can spend some time to answer them.
Thanks a lot, Chandani. That was a great session, and certainly, like, even I learned a lot. So I'm pretty sure there are like a lot more people who would have gained a lot of advantage from that and like learned a lot more as well. So we have quite a bit of time left. So if any one of you want to ask any questions from Chandani, you can raise your hand. We will unmute you. You can ask, or you can put your questions in the Q&A box as well. I think there's already one question there, Chandani. So maybe I'll read it out for you. So Donna asks, upload APK files to the cloud as a precondition of automation.
Yeah, like let's say like if we are using a cloud-based platform like a browser stack, then we will have to retrieve the APK or IPA files after the dev build is run. Then we have to retrieve it and also upload it to browser stack servers, because we will be running our tests on those uploaded APK. So actually, browser stack provides the upload capabilities as well through their command. So it kind of easy integration there. I hope I answered your question, Dora.
Anyone, if you have any questions, we can go. Okay, Bilal asks a question. Can we integrate these automated scripts with a test management tool?
Um, Yeah, yes. So actually, like to be honest, I have not done that for mobile scripts, but I know that if we take Asia, maybe we can link the test scripts written in C sharp with Asia test plan. So I have done it in web, so I can't be so sure if it will work for mobile as well. However, like we only can link the scripts with the Asia test plans. Only we use C sharp. If we use Java, we can't do that, but there are APIs provided by test management tools like X-Ray, which is a Jira plugin for the test cases to be linked to automated scripts. And also, I think Jenkins also has a X-Ray plugin as well. So I would say it should be possible, and really good thing to start looking into it.
Yes, we have got one more question from Madisha. So she's asking, what are the challenges you have faced in automating mobile applications using cloud device platforms?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a timely question, I would say, because like one such challenge I'm facing currently is that we had previously configured our cloud device platform with Azure for our automated scripts, but we got a new requirement to move from Azure to GitLab. So we are facing some integration issues where we had to talk to the support team of that cloud device platform as well. So these integration issues could happen anytime, and we might want to, change the approaches because all the platforms won't behave the same way. So that's one of the issues I can, remember right now. Yeah. Yeah, I think we have another question from Tara. In local setup, we start Appium server manually, but in CI/CD, can we do this programmatically? Yeah, yes. So when it comes to when it comes to CI/CD integration, yeah. So when we integrate our, scripts with a cloud device platform, like let's say browser stack, it's handled from that platform actually. But anyway, you can also set it up in the code itself if you're running it locally, and also when you don't want to start it manually all the time. So yeah. Anyway, if you use browser stack handles starting the Appium server as well.
We do have a few more minutes, so if anyone of you have any questions, please go ahead. I think we have got one from Tilini Fernando. So she asks, can we run the Cypress tests in browser stack?
Yes, I think yes, it's possible. So uh, yeah, I have seen that browser stack provides that service as well. So I think it supports integrate like it supports frameworks like Selenium, Playwright, Cypress, all those stuff. So yeah, so it's possible.
And we have got a couple of more questions from Donna. So one is, tell more about which design pattern is used in this framework and standard.
Yeah, actually, here in this one, I talked about we used Page Factory because we needed to uh, we need to handle these locators in both Android and iOS using the same variable. So we can use one variable to store the locators of Android and iOS, and access those locators from the same variable. So that's why we used Page Factory there. And how did you guys overcome the hybrid screen challenges? Yeah, this is kind of a challenge we are facing currently. We are trying out a few more things. I think we can here. I think I have seen solutions like with JavaScript. Maybe using JavaScript workarounds, we can overcome these challenges. This is something we are currently facing, but so I can't give you an exact solution right now. But yeah. So when we search for the solutions, I have seen that we can use some JavaScript workarounds for this.
Any more questions, guys? We have a few more minutes, and like certainly we can pick Chandani's brain a bit more. And we can maybe have like a couple of minutes more. if there are no questions anymore, like we can wind up the session. So you guys have like maybe 2 minutes to like get in with more questions. I think we have one more question from Donna. So same framework can handle iOS and Android. How?
Yeah, so Appium is the framework you can easily to handle, both iOS and Android, automation. So Appium driver gives you the ability to do that. So you don't have to, have, two separate code bases for iOS and Android.
I think so. We have like get like gotten good questions, and like Chandani was able to like give out like very informative answers. We do have some more times. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask, and certainly we'll be able to like help you out. I think it's time for us to like say goodbye today's at Fika session. I think we had a great session. Chandani was able to give us a lot of information, and we got to know a lot from her, and we were able to like get good conversation in with the questions as well. And thank you so much for your time, Chandani. And we really enjoyed the session. And I thank everyone who joined as well. It's a great pleasure to have you over for a Fika here. And certainly, if you guys want to know more about this upcoming Fika session, so know about Ascentic, you guys can follow our page as well. And if you guys want to know more about the company and what's happening here and like anything related to the company, you can contact me. Or if you want to have a chat with Chanduni about what she has shared today, certainly you can contact me. Then I'll be making it possible to contact her as well. Before signing off, I'll just let me know who I am. So I'm Achudan Sindhukumaran. So what I do at Ascentic is I search for good people and take them into the company. So I lead recruitment at Ascentic. So it was a great session. Thank you so much for joining here, guys, and we'll hopefully meet next month as well with something more exciting. Thanks a lot.